Greetings and salutations. We're back to looking at more things that we grew up with back in, like the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s. In this case, let's take a little trip down on memory lane on, our favorite, little train, Thomas the Train.
I never boast, but I'd say 100 miles an hour would be easy for me. Goodbye. Duck took some freight cars to Edward's station. Hello, called Edward. That famous engine came through this morning. He whistled to me. Wasn't he kind? He's the finest engine in the world, replied Duck. Then he told Edward what Gordon had said. Take no notice, soothed Edward. He's just jealous.
With his show that was brought over here in the States called Shining Time Station. Well, before the show had, got over here, it was known as Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. The show was also narrated and also starred at times Ringo Starr. I'm gonna be honest, while I was looking back at the show, because, I played with little trains as a kid and all that, but, looking back, I realized, this was also a show that aired on PBS. This show was quite charming. And, when you think about it, you don't think, especially when you think like Thomas the Train, you don't think charming, relaxing, and all that. But let's give some details about it. So, the original show, Thomas the Tank Engine, it was originally based on the books The Railroad series written by Reverend William Awdry, and the series had aired on PBS from January 29th, 1989 until January 11th, 1993, with 4-hour-long family specials premiering in primetime throughout 1995. Reruns continued to air on PBS until June 11th, 1998. And there are several moments of this show that can be, quite entertaining. Whether it's the moments that include, say, the live action sequence with the actors, that would be, say sometimes a character will perhaps be learning a lesson, or the kids, learning the ability to wanting to say no.
No! Oh! Yes, that's the spirit, Miss Jones. Very good. Just remember, just say no.
Maybe we should get us some of that.
A leader?
Oh.
And then suddenly you perhaps would have a story that would be connected to, say, a story involving Thomas and his friends. And I gotta say, yes, they are actually pretty entertaining. It's actually feeling like, how when you go back to watch something, whether it was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you can always, no matter how old you are, you can go back and just watch those, and then you can still have a sense of a smile bringing on it to you, even if you feel like saying, I like it. Heck, one of the things that after a while, say, Ringo Starr, he was actually in the original show, and would be brought back for this show.
Gordon always pulled the big express. He was proud of being the only engine strong enough to do so. It was full of important people, like the Fat Controller, and Gordon was seeing how fast he could go. Hurry, 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 he said. Tickety-tock, tickety-tock, tickety-tock.
However, eventually, he wanted to leave because he wanted to have, do the, continue on with his music. So, comedian George Carlin, replaced Starr as Mr. Conductor.
Every day, Sir Topham Hatt came to the station to catch his train. "Hello," he always said to Thomas.
Don't let the silly freight cars tease you. Remember, you have an important job as a special helper in the train yard. There were lots of freight cars, and Thomas worked very hard pushing and pulling them into place.
And at first, like like when you go back to like watch the first season, you can see a bit, you can like hear it. But as you go back and like and you start to watch the show with Carlin, you grow used to his interpretation of the character. And you go to, like, in a way, love it. You go to realize, oh, it's just charming. It's sweet. You really just feel a sense of calm and energy, I guess. The other thing that the show does is in certain moments, the show would have a group of puppets that had their own little band. I'm gonna be honest though, I'm in a little bit of interest in coming back to look at trains, in that, like, when I went to Italy, I had really grown to like the idea of traveling by trains, in that they were quite, have a sense of just relax. You just sit back, you look as, these sense of, like, say, the fields, the little houses, and all that travel, move on as you travel forward onto your destination. The other actors that are included in the show include, say, Tom Jackson, who played the wise ninja Billy Two Feathers, while seasoned actor Lloyd Bridges stepped into as Mr. Nichols. And I gotta say, I kind of like the character of Scheme. I think that was his name. He basically is always trying to do things, like, in one episode he tries to get rid of a old jukebox because in his perspective, it's old, let's move on, and all that stuff. And yeah, like, even though you can say, like, oh, like, well, that's not very great, but you can understand.
Hello, Ween.
Oh, Schemer, these pumpkins are rotten.
Hey, only technically, Miss Jones, only technically.
Schemer, it is dishonest to try to sell painted pumpkins.
It's a disguise, Miss Jones. The pumpkins this year are wearing orange paint as a costume.
Oh, Schemer, that's against the spirit of Halloween.
Understand, like, why he is a business unit, like, he's saying, oh, like, time to move forward and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not like he is just woefully just doing things just to be a jerk about it. And there's also an evil, there's also a version of the conductor known as the evil conductor twin. He has a twin. And I really got a kick out of this. I really just, if I could watch more episodes of this, I would.
Where? Asked Thomas and Toby. He didn't say. Oh, it makes my wheels wobble to think of it. Said Thomas. You're just a silly little engine. I'm not scared. Thomas didn't believe in your ghost, said Percy next morning. His driver laughed. Neither do I. It was only a pretend ghost story.
I would spend an entire day watching this show. But then again, sadly, my plate is currently full. Which means more things to work on, as, we always have to do. And, like, one of the things that the show would, would also do is they would, not only would the show be, have a, media, whether it was VHS tapes on home release and all that. But, you know, you'd also go into the idea of, you know, toys, because that was one thing that was huge when it comes to the success of, you know, Thomas here in the States. Okay, so whenever you would go to the doctor's office, that was always one thing that was always rather prevalent. And, yeah, I gotta say, Shining Time Station, worth going back to watch.
Hello, Thomas, whistled Percy. You look splendid. Yes, indeed, boasted Thomas. Blue is the only proper color for an engine. Oh, I don't know. I like my brown paint, said Toby. I've always been green. I wouldn't want to be any other color either, added Percy. Well, anyway, huffed Thomas, blue is the only color for a really useful engine. Everyone knows that.
See you next time.